Paradigm 2, vertical, vertical integration. Vertical integration. Now that we understand the concept of ethno-aggregation and the process of pooling group resources, let us move on to the second empowerment paradigm, vertical integration. Vertical integration is a directional paradigm that comes into play after blacks as a group have ethno aggregated around their most common and prominent characteristics. There is a commonly accepted rule in sociology that when ethnic groups were wedged in hierarchies of wealth, power, and privilege, competitive conflicts are inevitable. Vertical integration empowers blacks to be territorial and vertically mobile. It places black self interest first and propels blacks in an upward economic direction because that is where the nation's wealth and power are localized. Wealth, income, businesses, privileges, and resource powers are fixed and parallel, with whiteness at the top of the resource ladder and blackness at the bottom. Wealth and power Wealth and power resources are continuously and disproportionately distributed to those at the top first. The resources circulate horizontally among members of the white in group before portions of the wealth and power trickle down to blacks and other outgroups at lower levels. On the bottom level, black Americans get what those above either did not want or didn't need. Either way, the result is the same. It is always too little, too late. However, we have a, we have a choice. We can continue to wait, hoping for those at the top to have a change of heart and share some of this nation's vast fortune. We can continue to wait, hoping for those at the top to have a change of heart and share some of this nation's vast fortune. But that is against the grain of history and not likely to occur. Our best remaining option is to implement a national plan with strategies for moving up the nation's pecking order and compete for wealth and power resources at every level. Vertical integration versus ethno aggregation. Vertical integration, working hand in hand with ethno aggregation, is symbolized T by the power T illustration in figure 6. A group aggregates and concentrates its resources at the base of the stem of the T for maximum strength. Okay, Power T mobility model, old horizontal model, social integration, few social integration, horizontal scattered people and resources, new vertical model, wealth power, okay, all, okay, wealth, okay, few social integration, scattered people and resources, okay, ethno aggregate, concentrate, concentrate, uh, concentrate resources, all power. Okay. Once blacks have concentrated their resources, they should move them up the stem towards the crossbar as it as its top. As blacks ascend the stem, they compete at each class level with each and every ethnic, religious, language, and gender group. Regardless of how high blacks ascend, if their resources are pooled and connected, they continue to receive cultural and racial support from their roots. They hold all newly captured turf so that other blacks from below can have a clear channel through which they too can ascend. Those blacks who reach the top of the T can then capture new territory by moving horizontally into non black communities, pursuing political and business opportunities. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. As more blacks reach the top, they too can expand horizontally to capture new political and economic resources. The earlier example of Arab Americans in Detroit exemplifies power T activity, social integration, and horizontal negatives. Black Americans as a group cannot improve their wealth and power holdings by advancing horizontal social integration. Okay? Wealth, power, and other resources are not stored horizontally in a pecking order, nor are they stored on the same level with black Americans. Black Americans are locked into a caste system upon which this nation's class system rests. Horizontal movement places blacks in economic competition with poor whites who have yet to ascend the pecking order. Social integration in the old horizontal model in Figure 6 has misled blacks into believing that wealth and power resources are stored just over the next horizon or in the next suburb, all within marching distance. Also, horizontal movement locks blacks into competition with immigrants and other evolving minorities. Multiculturalism, cultural diversity, and a color-blind society give the illusion of progress. Blacks are convinced into believing that aligning with ethnic immigrants who have been in this country less than 30 years is somehow progress for black people. Aligning with these immigrant groups and their horizontal issues detoured blacks. How, moreover, it blurred the obligations that this nation's advantaged society has to its disadvantaged black citizens. Even now, every black initiative is burdened with a universalism that requires them to share the fruits of their victory with other horizontal groups competing against black America. Black Americans must not Black Americans must not allow the vertical line of obligation between themselves and whites to be blurred. Black Americans must not allow the vertical line of obligation between themselves and whites to be blurred. Blacks are injured by those who do not make distinctions between them and other minority groups. Equating other minority groups with blacks demonstrates a poor understanding of history and hides the fact that black people remain at the bottom of the pile. Horizontal movement to align blacks with other minority or special interest groups erases black America's special moral claim to our society and history. Although our labor built this country, we have not been properly recognized nor compensated. Worse, we have been treated as just another aggrieved minority group. We are reduced to just another political group with outstretched palms, a special interest, vying for the same affirmative action programs as Eskimos and Salvadorians. We recapture our special moral claim. We recapture our special moral claim and status by aspiring upward. Horizontal movement promotes the social phenomenon called crabbing among black people. When the multitude of black Americans are locked into the lowest horizontal level of our society, like crabs in a barrel, they cannot escape. Misery does love company. Social integration requires most of us to move laterally. We remain on the same horizontal or class level with most blacks, even though we may have received a job promotion or moved into a new integrated suburb. Every black remains in competition with every other black for the few financial, political, and social crumbs that are available. Crabbing will dissipate when we move vertically. Rather than competing with each other for crumbs, we compete with other class levels for the whole cake as we move vertically. If there's crabbing, it will be done as a group in competition with other groups who are crabbing for their respective groups. Horizontal movement does not redistribute the ownership and control of wealth and other power resources. Horizontal movement does not redistribute ownership and control of wealth and power resources. Instead, it simply wastes time and resources. As an example, how did moving from the back to the front of the bus, from the ghetto to the suburbs, from a black restaurant to a white restaurant, or from a black school to a white school improve black people's ownership and control of wealth and power? For example, before horizontal integration of the 1960s, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, had a black city bus line, black theaters, black hotels, black restaurants, and black communities. But now all of these things are gone. We are still suffering from the waste of a horizontal movement. If we had been thinking vertically rather than moving to the front of the bus, our concerns would have been instead about black people manufacturing, owning, operating, repairing, and chartering the city bus lines. How much tangible difference does it make where you sit on the bus if the destination and the quality of the seating is the same? This is a distinction without a difference. Social and horizontal integration played major roles in killing off Winston-Salem's only black bus line and other black businesses. Where is the vertical progress when blacks are still just passengers or customers in businesses owned by others? As indicated in Figure 7. As indicated in Figure 7, horizontal integration is at cross purposes with the self interest of blacks. Racism runs up and down from the highest point to the lowest point. It affects every member of the black race, regardless of education, employment, class, or party affiliation. The only blacks who benefit from engaging in cross purpose activities are those directly behind the point where the horizontal issue intersect. The only blacks who benefit from engaging in cross-purpose activities are those directly behind the point where the horizontal issue intersect. For example, when black women devote their resources to the horizontal gender issue, any benefits from their efforts will not occur or accrue to the race, but to all women. But within the gender category, benefits gained will trickle down to black women who will still be on the bottom of the gender issue. Therefore, the horizontal issues, such as gender, political affiliations, and class, should be secondary to racism and structural economic inequalities that it protects. Horizontal issues that affect everybody have the potential to overshadow racism, divert resources, and prolong the nation's racial inequalities. The so called aggrieved minorities and women, upon whom horizontal issues focus, together form a majority of the white population. When black Americans participate with these groups, not only are they working at cross purposes with their own best interests, their participation pits them against other blacks. Vertical cross purpose categories: religion, poverty, gender, religion, poverty, gender, ethnicity, political party, minority, majority. Okay, the advantages of vertical integration association with the empowerment vision of economic and political reform for Black America. The vertical integration paradigm has numerous practical and important purposes. 9 purposes are listed here. All right, what are the 9 purposes? One, vertical integration gives Black Americans access to the primary holders of the nation's wealth and resource powers. 2, it gives Black America a collective sense of direction for their collective self interest. 3, it gives blacks a channel for upward mobility. 4, it is a tool to capture new physical, financial, and cultural territory. Where did 5 go? All right, well, we'll go to 6. It gives Black Americans the mechanism to control an economic industry from the raw material at the bottom to the retail markets at the top. 7, it instills Black Americans with a mindset that encourages them to concentrate and direct resources for maximum impact, benefit, and visibility. 8, it promotes a hierarchy of authority and respect within Black families, Black neighborhoods, and Black people. Finally, it reduces Black Americans' vulnerability to competitive groups by dissuading them from engaging in self defeating horizontal integration, lateral mobility, and cross purpose issues. Vertical integration advantages Black Americans by vertically linking its authority and institutional leaders with with the black masses. Applications of vertical integration. Chapters 5 through 8 contain specific applications of vertical integration. However, this paradigm applies across the board to all aspects of group empowerment. It applies especially to business, education, and political principles of self interest, unity, and monopolistic dominance. The vertical integration concept creates an alternative structure within which blacks can collectively compete in most aspects of our society. In those businesses in which black entrepreneurs have competitive advantages based on powernomics empowerment principles, the vertical integration paradigm facilitates industrialization. Once black communities are rebuilt, industries more so than businesses will provide them with greater wealth, income, employment, and power building opportunities. Equally important, vertical integration serves as a mechanism for controlling every layer of business within an industry. For example, or for an instance, if black manufacturers of black hair care products form a vertical industry, it will be possible for them, as well as other black entrepreneurs, to move up or down in the production, distribution, and retail processes. They will be able to protect themselves by establishing control over the raw materials and manufacturing, and by building their own suppliers, distributors, and retail outlets. They will also be able to collectively encourage and support um, independent black suppliers and retail outlets. Clearly, vertical integration holds enormous potential for blacks. Do our competitors profit from our horizontal orientation? Do our competitors profit from our horizontal orientation? Yes. Horizontal orientation. Okay. Black Americans cannot protect their existing assets by moving horizontally. We paid a high price for horizontal social integration, including the loss of our communities, culture, colleges, professional sports teams, political leadership, and businesses. As we opened our culture and communities, as we opened our culture and communities and abandoned blackness, our competitors came in and filled the void. While others enriched themselves playing and singing our music, many of our singers and musicians faded away. As our young people fight for admission and financial assistance at white colleges, many historically black colleges are now predominantly white. While black business persons argue for affirmative action and set aside preferences, black businesses that once were all black, um, because they provided services and products that were unique to blacks, are now forced out of business by the majority of society and newly arriving immigrants. We left the back door open while we were busy horizontally integrating. Now now it has closed and locked us out. Let's look again at the hair care industry to illustrate this phenomenon. Only blacks have black hair. Until the beginning of of horizontal integration in the 1960s, blacks not only dominated but also had a monopoly on black hair care. Black businesspersons attended to every aspect of black hair care from the manufacture, distribution, and retail sale of products to the operation of barbershops and beauty salons. Now, all of that has changed. Asians and majority white companies have taken over and now dominate the black hair care business. While the country was horizontally integrating, black hair care providers were locked out at the bottom and top. Majority white outlets, especially drugstores and supermarkets, did not integrate their store shelves by including hair care products. Once the black hair care businesses became financially weak, white firms bought them out. Retail outlets made shelf space only after whites acquired ownership. Blacks went into blacks went through integration. Blacks went through integration, but business opportunities did not. Blacks went through integration, but business opportunities did not. Even then, blacks were the primary manufacturers until Asians took over the distributorships and effectively cut black producers off from most retail outlets. This divide and conquer tactic forced most of the remaining black hair care producers to sell out. Hair care, black hair care, is now a vertical industry controlled by everyone but blacks. Black hair care was left unprotected by horizontal social integration. Should blacks ever move horizontally? Should blacks ever move horizontally in their quest? Should blacks ever move horizontally in their quest of greater wealth and power? The answer is yes, but only after they have ascended up the wealth and power pecking order as indicated in the Power T mobility model as shown in Figure 6. Black businesses can move either vertically or horizontally, but the timing and the order is important. Often we get the sequence wrong. We integrated and moved horizontally first. We integrated and moved horizontally first. Vertical vertical must always come vertical vertical must always come before horizontal. The objective of a horizontal move is to expand within an existing market that blacks dominate. As indicated earlier, there is a point at which blacks have ascended high enough into the wealth and power structure that it will become okay for them to expand horizontally and seek out a new turf at the higher levels of this nation's racial hierarchy. We should participate we should participate in horizontal activities only after we have monopoly control of the politics and economics of our own neighborhoods, communities, and consumer markets. Conclusion. We have looked at the four keys to empowerment: an empowerment culture, a vision, an, an ethno aggregation paradigm, and a vertical integration paradigm. These tools are designed to frame how we think, see, and behave regarding racial matters and to bring us together as a team. The majority society's social engineering has polarized black Americans to the point that it is nearly impossible to get black people to work together for any purpose, let alone to pool their financial and non financial resources. If we remain in such a state, it will not be possible for blacks to progress as a group. The empowerment tools presented and discussed in this chapter are interrelated but should be used in the following sequence. 1. Establish an empowerment culture to foster mindsets, values, and codes of conduct that prohibit members from acting in violation of their own people's best interests. 2. Acquire a group vision that articulates for us a clear picture of what Black America should be and what we can achieve. 3. Use the ethno aggregation paradigm in order to combine assets within our group to reach a group goal. 4. The vertical integration paradigm to point out the direction in which we should travel. These are effective tools for creating group self-interest, competitiveness, and team spirit. Also, they can function as templates to compel us to be consistent in situations where we must see, think, and make decisions on racial matters. Now that we have our tools gathered, Chapter 3 focuses on the importance of communities and how we can build them to our advantage. Organizing for empowerment. How winners, how winners and losers are predetermined. Mm, all right.
Valued member of the group. Thank you all for.
Give me your son. And he took him from her arms and carried him up into the upper chamber where he lodged, and laid him on his own bed. And he cried to the Lord, O Lord, my God.